Hi everyone, Henry here. In this video, we're going to learn how to use data operations to parse emails within Power Automate. Now, this is fairly useful if you want to start an automated workflow that begins with the receipt of an email. And what I've drawn up here is a very simple example that I've seen my clients use all the time. So for example, let's say if we're working for a consulting company, and they have applications that they deploy to their own clients. And they need an efficient ticketing system. What currently happens is if someone is finding an issue with their application, they actually send an email to an email inbox, which then someone has to go in, look at the email, and then actually manually put it in the SharePoint list called tickets. So for example, we recently got an email that said that the hula hoop or the Hula app is not working. Here's the complaint, here's the application that it's related to, and then here's the urgency level. And someone would have to go in and add this manually to the SharePoint list, and after it's been added to the SharePoint list, it then gets triaged by engineers, and then eventually resolved. Right, so that's a whole workflow. What we're going to automate is the part where someone actually reads the email and then manually uploads it to SharePoint. We're going to automate that with Power Automate. One other complication is that this email inbox is a general inbox. It's used for all types of emails. We only want emails that are related to tickets to go into the SharePoint list. The other nuance here is that emails can sometimes contain attachments. So they can contain attachments, for example, photos of the issue, like this person has over here, or other things to help the engineers determine what the problem is. We want to make sure we also save that to the SharePoint list as well. Now that we have our case and our scenario, let's go ahead and get started. Let's open up Power Automate and create our flow. So let's click the Create button over here. And the type of flow that we'll be creating is called an automated cloud flow, which is a flow that is triggered by a designated event. Our designated event is obviously the email coming into our inbox. Now, there are different types of flows over here, and there's a really good YouTube video as well where I describe the different types of flows and when to use them that I'll link down below. So over here, we have the automated cloud flow. So I'm just going to click it over here. We won't give it a name for now, or a trigger, we'll just click skip. Perfect. Now, obviously, it needs a trigger, and our trigger is going to be when a new email arrives. So I'm going to look for Office 365 Outlook, which is right over here. I'm using Outlook. Obviously, this can work with Gmail, Yahoo Mail, any connector that Power Automate has here, which they have thousands of them anyways. So I'm going to choose Office 365 Outlook, and the action I'm going to choose is when a new email arrives. Okay, now I have a bunch of options I can choose from. I want to make sure that when a new email arrives to the inbox folder, the flow gets triggered. However, I don't want all emails to trigger this workflow, only emails that maybe have the subject filter called ticket. So I'm going to go into Show Advanced Options over here, and I'm going to, over here, type in a subject filter called ticket. That means this flow will only be triggered if the ticket string is within the subject of the email. Okay? I'm going to also say include attachments, so then we can actually add attachments to the SharePoint list. And that's it. Usually what you can do as well is if you know you're only going to get ticket requests from a few inboxes, you can also modify the from here as well. But we're just going to look at the ticket subject filter, and that's it. The next thing to know is what a ticket email actually looks like before we parse through it. Now, we've given our users a standardized email form to use when they email us with tickets. And this is kind of what it looks like. They have a table over here. The first row is title, and then they put in the title of their complaint, then the complaint. So they actually describe what's happening that they don't like. The application, so this is what the complaint relates to. We might have several different applications deployed to our users, and then finally the urgency out of 10. Now this is probably a email template that we've given them, and that's important because if you want to be able to parse through your emails, you want to make sure that your emails come in a very standardized templated form. So what we would give them, for example, is a blank email with this table that just have over here a simple, basically the title, the pipes over here, and then nothing over here for them to fill in. And then they can also add attachments if they want as well. The next part of the flow over here is the ability to transfer an HTML email, which is what we usually get with emails these days, and turning it into a text email that we can then parse through. Okay? So our next step over here is called the HTML to text action. Over here, it's under content conversion. Right now, there's only one option available, but I'm sure Power Automate is looking to add more to this. What we're going to do is we're going to convert the output of this email action into a text. We click this guy over here, and all it needs is the actual content. Now, the reason we need to do this as well is because tables, like the ones we receive over here, are in HTML form. You can't really parse through HTML tables, or I mean, you can, but it's very difficult to. So instead, we're going to first convert it into text. Okay? So over here, I'm going to go to the body, and there we go. This step will convert the body of this email to text. The next step over here is to be able to actually create the SharePoint list. We have everything we need now to actually be able to create it. Okay? So our next step over here, we're going to go to SharePoint. And what we want to do is we want to create an item, which basically means creating another row in a list. Obviously, we need to specify our site address. We're using test site. Obviously, a company can have multiple different sites, right? And our list is going to be tickets. Now, after we do that, it should pop up with a list of values that corresponds to the columns that is in our list. Okay? Over here, we want to make sure that we get the same results. So, title, complaint, application urgency, title, complaint, application urgency, and then we also have another field called email where we'll dump the entire contents of the email into that field because we want to keep the entire email just in case our parsing method has become corrupted or incorrect or anything like that. Okay? So we're going to go over here and now we're going to take this output and we know we need to do something with it, right? What this output will look like is it'll basically be this table, but without the actual lines. So for example, the text will be title and then a pipe, and then hula hoop not working, and then a pipe, and then the word complaint, and then a pipe, and then the app won't let me log in, this is very annoying, and then a pipe, and so on and so forth. So what we want to be able to do is we first want to be able to split this long text into an array, where the first element of the array is title, the second element of the array is hula app not working, the third element is complaint, and so on and so forth. After we do that, then we can specify exactly what we want in each one of these columns. In the first column called title, we want the first element, hula app not working. In the second column, the complaint, we want the 0, 1, 2, 3 third element, and so on and so forth. Okay? Now, the function we'll use for this is called split. So I have over here a reference guide opened up. I consult this all the time. I recommend you guys do it as well. This really helpful page goes through all the different variations of functions that you can use within your expressions in Power Automate. The one we're going to use is called split. Over here it says it returns an array that contains substrings separated by commas based on the specified delimiter. Our delimiter, the characters that separate our text, are the pipes over here. Okay? We even have an example over here that we can look at. Split A underscore B underscore ski with the underscore as the delimiter will return A, B, C as array elements. Okay? Perfect. So now let's go over here into our title and go to expression, and we're going to call the split function. Now we can see the split function takes two arguments, a text and a delimiter or a separator. The text over here will be the plain text content. So the output of this action over here, comma. And then the second argument, which is the separator or the delimiter, will be the pipe. So I'm just going to put quote pipe. Okay? Now after it's been delimited, or after it's been split, you then get an array, and then you need to specify the element. So the title element will then reside in the first element. Okay? We're going to copy that, and then we're going to click OK, and there we go. We're going to do the same thing for complaint application urgency. Okay? We know the complaint is, again, 0, 1, 2, 3. Array start at 0. Don't ask me why. 0, 1, 2, 3. So we're going to go into complaint, going to go into expression, paste it, and then put in 3. Application over here will be 5. And urgency will be 7. Okay? And then finally, we have the entire email. We want to save the entire email so we don't need to do any of the split array type logic. So we're just going to select the plain text context, and that is it. Awesome. Last but not least, we need to do something about the attachments as well. Okay? Now, that's fairly simple. We're going to click New Step over here, and the SharePoint connector has an action called Add Attachment. So we're going to click that, and it specifies for us a few things. So we need to specify, again, the address and the list. The address is test site. The list is tickets. And then the ID of the row where you want to attach the attachment. Now this will be an output of the create item action. So we'll click this, we'll look at create item, and we need the ID. Perfect. We also want to add the file name as well. So the file name here, we'll just call it attached. And then the contents of the file will be the attachment itself from the email up above. So we'll scroll down to where we see email, and the attachment content is what we would want to add in. Okay, now what this does is it automatically wraps it in an apply to each function. The reason being you can have technically multiple attachments in one email, right? So this will do this process for each attachment, for the first, second, third, all the way to the nth attachment. So we'll get all of their images if they have more than one image, for example. Okay, perfect. Let's save it, and then we'll do a test. I have the email already up and ready. So this is the email we're going to send the inbox that a client would send us. So from doesn't matter, obviously, but it's going into this inbox. Again, we have the subject ticket in here, which is the key thing that Automate is looking for to trigger the workflow. And then we have a standardized form over here that we've provided to the client for them to fill in. So in this example, page app is not loading my payments. When I go to the payments page, I see a blank screen. I see a random error, page app, urgency, all that kind of stuff. Okay. We're now going to click send, and we'll wait for the workflow to actually trigger. Now, in order to see if the workflow worked, let's go through a couple of steps. We'll first go to our email and see if we actually received the email, which perfect, we did. We then go to our Power Automate workflow and go to our workflow's main page or a dashboard to see if it actually ran successfully. We can see that there was a run 21 seconds ago that lasted 3 seconds, and it says succeeded. In fact, we can even click it to verify that this is the actual run that we wanted to look at related to Ticket app. We can just click this and look at the output over here and see over here, perfect, page app now loading my payments. That's the email that we had sent as a test. You can also see what this action actually does. It turns this HTML mess into this guy over here, which is, again, easier for us to parse through. Okay, the last check is to go to our list and see if that worked. And perfect, it did. We can see over here our record that we had added in. Page app now loading my payments. When I go to the payments page, I see a blank screen and then I see a random error that I don't understand. Page app 10. And you also have the attachments over here too, where if I click this, it opens up the attachment that was part of my email. So it adds in all of those things. It even adds the email too. If I click see more over here, I can see the exact email without any sort of parsing or keeping certain arrays, not keeping other arrays, so on and so forth. You can even put in HTML content in here if you want as well. And perfect. We've gone through, I think in less than 10 minutes, right? Or almost less than 10 minutes, an entire workflow that we've created that probably saves one poor chap so many hours a month of doing this manually. And this is the way to do it. Now, before I go, I do want to end with a few notes. The first one over here is we've created a very simple workflow, but you can imagine that it can get more complex. For example, what we would probably want is if the email that we receive does not follow the standardized structure that we expect, we then can either ignore the following steps, or we can have an if condition that says if we don't receive an email in this format, that actually emails the person back saying, hey, we don't accept this format. Please use this format instead, and actually send them an email, a template for them to fill out. So instead of people being annoyed and people having to manually email back the person saying like, hey, could you please like fix your email? Instead, we have that part automated as well. The second thing here is that we've only automated the loading aspect of tickets. Tickets have a very long life cycle. A ticket is originated, which is what we've automated, but it's also triaged, it's commented on, it's resolved, and then the resolution is communicated back to the customer. That is a whole Power Automate workflow that you can actually automate that has dynamic elements like ticket origination and static elements like an engineer working on the ticket itself. Right? You would probably want an approval process where once an engineer is assigned a ticket from a manager, it then goes to the engineer, they fix it, and then they click a button like an approve button in their teams to then say the ticket is resolved, and then it goes back to, and then another workflow that gets triggered that communicates the resolution of the ticket back to the customer. Finally, we've had our customers use email to trigger the workflow. However, you might also want a Power App instead. The reason why you would want that is for several reasons. The first, you don't need to worry about any sort of formatting. Second, it looks better, it looks more sophisticated. You've created an app for them to give you their tickets. Third, they can actually monitor the statuses of their tickets. They can click a ticket and they can see what stage in the workflow it's at, so they're always informed. You don't get a bunch of emails afterwards saying, hey, has my ticket been triaged yet? Has anyone looked at my ticket yet? So on and so forth. There are a lot of benefits of using Power Apps as the front-end interface instead of emails. But there you go. What we've done over here is a very simple example of being able to parse through an email in a Power Automate workflow that takes the contents of an email and populates a SharePoint list. And there we go. Awesome. Let me know if you have any questions and stay tuned for some more Enterprise DNA content. Thank you so much.
Hey everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Enterprise DNA TV. If you enjoyed the content covered in this particular tutorial, please throw the video a like. It really helps us and we really appreciate it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Enterprise DNA TV channel. We have a huge amount of content coming out all the time from myself and a range of content creators, all dedicated to improving the way that you use Power BI and the Power Platform. Lastly, check out Enterprise DNA's website. Plenty of resources and further learning that you can access very easily. All the best. Take care.